Imagine supernatural horrors lurking, waiting to enter our world from other dimensions. Every shadow holds a secret, every dark corner a threat, but a team stands ready. Project Threshold. Their mission: protect us from darkness. Join us. ProjectThreshold.com.
With infinite complacence, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space.
On this episode of Into the Fray, I welcome Ken on with me, and he sent me a lovely bullet point list, which I love, and I have it printed out in front of me right now. Ken, thank you so much. But I wanted you to start out by telling everyone the kind of strange thing that happened when you were composing the very email I have in my hand.
Oh, you want to jump to that already? That was weird.
Yeah,
Oh my
unless we
goodness.
should save that for when that's supposed to come in, but it's up to
I
you.
thought we should wait until, but the weirdness. Oh, let's get it out of the way. It was so weird, and I was actually, I was writing a bullet point list of stuff I wanted to propose to you to talk about, and I was actually re-listening to show 503. And right as I was typing one of the weird things that happened to me, it involves Carole Lombard. And I lived in one of the houses she used to own in Silver Lake a long time ago. And at the moment you were talking with your guest about her death, and you neither one of you could remember her name. And I went, oh my gosh, that's the name I'm typing right now.
It's
Carole
crazy.
Lombard.
That
That
is
was so weird.
so wild. I read that. I was like, wow. Yeah. Because, of course, as you probably guessed, I remembered the moment that we got off of the phone. That happened right here in Vegas, essentially. So I'm like, how in
Yeah.
the world could I not recall Carole Lombard? But yeah, neither one of us could. And you were actually typing it at that very time. So pretty cool. All right. So we
Yeah.
will get there. But wherever you wanted to start, I have the list in front of me. If you need to give any background about family, that's up to you. If you think it's pertinent, it's the usual MO with me. So wherever you wanted to start, Ken, and thank you for coming on, by the way. Welcome.
I think I'll begin at the beginning. My first paranormal experience, I've had all kinds of things, so we're going to go over a range of topics. But my first experience was when I was 7 years old. It was not long after Christmas, and I had just gotten for Christmas a puppet stage made of cardboard, and it was fun, and I could do little puppet shows for my sister, basically. And I also got a stocking stuffer of the plastic barrel of monkeys where you try and link them together. The game where you take one monkey out of the barrel and try and link it with another monkey and then another monkey, and you try and build a whole chain of them without touching the monkeys. I had them draped across the front of the whole chain. I had just hung them over the cardboard puppet stage. And I was home from school one day, and because I had the flu, and I remember getting out of bed, I wanted to get a coloring book, and I walked over to my desk, and behind me was where the puppet stage was and the barrel of monkeys. And I was reaching for a coloring book, and suddenly this jolt of energy, like a finger or something, just ran right up my spine towards my neck. And I jumped around. I thought somebody was there. And it's like the first thing I looked at was the barrel of monkeys for some reason. And they rose up off of the cardboard puppet stage and flew to the middle of the room, hovered there for a moment, and then just dropped. And I was completely surprised. And I think I ran over there. I thought, oh, maybe it was a ghost, because my mom let me watch ghost movies, so I knew what ghosts were. And I picked up some of the monkeys and I went, do it again. And nothing happened. My mom was in the living room watching TV, and I went out to tell her what happened. And she and my father later that night got really angry at me and told me, stop making stuff up like that. That stuff doesn't happen in real life. And that I'm still, when I think about this, I'm still surprised at how angry they were. But stuff would still keep happening. Like once in a while I'd come into my bedroom and find the light was already on, and nobody had been in that part of the house. It was just me. And it was a small house, but I know nobody was back there. So as I started getting older, I started having or seeing things that were about to happen. I would see it was almost like, as a kid, it would be like a silver screen would pop in front of my eyes and I'd flash and see an image of something that was just about to happen. And most of it was not important. It was just random stuff, like people coming over or mom coming out of the grocery store. Stuff, it was innocuous stuff. And then I I started getting the ability to sense things about people as I got older, and especially when I got into my late teens, and I would start giving readings about what was going to happen in their live life in the next couple of days. And I started getting a bit of a reputation. I eventually went, after college, I moved to Los Angeles and met someone, a guy, and he worked in the entertainment industry. And I would go to all these Hollywood parties, and it was really weird. People knew who I was, and they knew to ask, what do you see? And some of them would come back and get really freaked out, or they would call me in the next couple of days. And I'm not going to be specific about it because it some of them were famous.
Right.
Yeah. But at one point, my partner said, you need to stop. You're scaring people. They don't want you to come to the parties anymore. So that was not fun.
That's wow. So it got that bad to where you were uninvited.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if it goes too far to say, but what were you predicting deaths, or was it just little things, or maybe stuff in the middle of those two rows?
A lot of them were infidelities. I could look at a person and figure out, oh, your partner's cheating on you. And I hated it. I would get a call 2 or 3 days later, and yeah, you were right. And I still got invited to parties as long as I behaved. To say that.
So even if someone would come up to you, you would go, nope, not going there.
Yeah, no, I'm just here to have a good time.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I could see where you're going. You guys asked me to do this.
And it just turned bad. So I guess the next thing that I started to realize was I had a roommate for a while, and we became good buds, and he moved away, and he started sending me photographs because he knew I had an ability, and he would ask me just to randomly read what I get off of the photograph. And there was one particular one that was really amazing, and I remember it. I still get chills thinking about it. Good chills. He sent me this picture of a woman, and I had no idea who she was. I'd never seen her. And when I saw the picture, he emailed it to me. So the moment I saw it, I went, "Oh, that's your mom." And he went, "Yeah, I've never shown you my mom. You didn't know what she looked like." So I told him in about 2 days, she's going to lose her job. And it's going to seem bleak for about an hour or two, but she's going to get hired at a much better job within the next day. And I see it's going to be so good that she's going to buy a red, expensive sports car. And my God, a week later, he called me back and went, "That's exactly what happened. She bought a sports car and she got a huge pay raise on the new job." And it was fun. And he kept sending me pictures over time, but I lost interest in it because I still felt like there, without person's permission, I don't like doing that. And I've stopped doing that. I still get impressions off of people, but I don't repeat them, or I don't say them out loud.
Ken, could you see things pertaining to your own life?
No, I couldn't. Maybe occasional glimpses, but nothing's particularly if I know a person really well. I can't pick up on stuff. It's easier if I don't know the person very well. Like my friend who sent me a picture of his mom, I didn't know his mom. I didn't even know her name. And so when I saw that picture, all these images started coming into my head. And yeah.
So, what do you think, since you're the one that has this gift, there's some kind of, not poisoning, but it's a muddying of the waters somehow the closer you are to the situation or the person?
Yeah. I think that's been my theory all along is, yeah, it just gets too complicated the closer you are to someone.
You think that's a protective measure, either subconsciously for you or just something built into the gift itself?
I think it's built in. Yeah. It's not impossible to read, but it's really hard. And I used to do tarot card readings, and I could never do it for somebody I knew. It always had to be somebody I didn't know. Because think about it, it's if you know the person, you can guess already what's going to happen in their life. You got already a head start on the readings, and it's unfair. But if you don't know the person at all, that's much more interesting, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. This whole thing is fascinating to me. That is truly a gift. Obviously, it didn't always go the way that you had planned it to with people's reactions. Do you think that jolt that you felt at 7 was you receiving this gift or it activating somehow?
I As I got older, my parents left me alone as far as religion. I got to study whatever I wanted, and I got interested in the paranormal. I thought it might be the best description I could find in paranormal literature was it was Kundalini being released. Just and it happens sometimes spontaneously for kids, and it did feel like a finger or a jolt going up my spine. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it was me. It was the start. Maybe it was. I've never considered that. Good question.
I would imagine that, and 7 is very young and before that, it can be some spotty memories for certain things. So you may have always had it and just don't recall. So
I had a very good memory. My mom didn't believe me. And I remember going for a shot from the doctor at 6 years old or 6 months old, excuse me. And my mom went, "No, you can't remember that." And I said, "We got it. My sister and I got it in our rears because we were twins. I had a twin sister." And my mom said, "Yeah, but what else?" And I said, "I remember you put me in my high chair and there was this particular purplish lavender blanket that you folded and set me on top of. And my mom, her jaw dropped. She went, "You do remember it at 6 months old." That's pretty incredible. That's weird.
Your parents' obvious overreaction to when you brought that up to them. Have you, and if this is coming up later, then let's not spoil it, but did you ever figure out why they may have reacted the way that they did? And then that obviously shut down you sharing anything else with your parents.
The next time they yelled at me about something paranormal was when I saw my first UFO, and that's later on in the story.
Okay.
There was never, to this day, it makes no sense. I have no idea why they got so angry. And it was like, I learned very early not to share with them what was going on.
It sounds like you just scared the absolute crap out of them to the point where it sounds like they almost have had some experiences in the home or maybe with you that were then confirmed out of your own mouth at 7.
Huh. I never considered that. I don't know. That's weird. That would be weird. And it would be not fun that they didn't. It's not very helpful that they didn't discuss it with me. But
Yeah, it's not. And that because that just seemed like a gross overreaction to what you told them.
Yeah.
Especially at 7, because it would be easier just to go, oh, you're so cute. You have such an imagination. And then you just walk away because you don't want to make it into a big thing. That's the whole point of it, is that you want to shut it down. But for both of them to yell at you about it, it seems, it sounds like there's maybe something else going on there.
Oh, yeah. Huh.
I could be
It
way
would have
off,
been nice.
of course.
Pardon?
Yeah. Oh, I'm just saying I could be way off. It's just where my brain is going with their reaction to that. And yeah, it would have been nice to have them as outlets for what was going on with you.
It would have been great. And your instinct is a good one, I think. But I don't know what was going on with my parents and never figured it out. I don't know. Anyway, moving on. As a teenager, we lived on the Oregon coast. We moved there when my sister and I were 9, and we lived in a place called Lincoln City. And I got a job in a town just 5 minutes away called Depot Bay at a restaurant. And the restaurant was haunted. And everybody on the staff called the ghost Ralph. And it started one morning when there was a regular customer who would come in every single morning and order a cup of coffee and sit and chat with the waitress. And one day he came in through the door and sat down and ordered coffee. And she turned around to get to the pot and he was gone. And it was his name was Ralph. So stuff started happening, like dishes flying across the room. I saw it many times, just stuff leaping off the counters and slamming on the floor or against walls. People would get pinched or shoved. He was being just silly. It wasn't harmful stuff, but he was just trying to surprise and get people's attention. Doors would open and close by themselves. And then there was an upstairs section of the restaurant that was for the evenings, and it was a nicer part of the bar. And there was always a bartender there. And every night he said it was really hard to clean up because I put all the dishes away, all the glasses, and go back to lock up. And he'd come back out to the bar, and there'd be a glass sitting on the table on the bar. And he'd often hear footsteps at night. And he said it didn't bother him. It was just weird. So that was the first time I ever experienced anything ghostly. And as you probably know from the bullet points, it gets a lot more to it than that. I think I'll jump to the Pioneer Cemetery. I went to the University of Oregon in the fall of 82, 1982. I have to tell this before. In high school, the previous spring, I was in drama class and we produced a production of Macbeth and took it to state and won first place. And that was so exciting. I got to play Macduff, the guy who chopped off Macbeth's head at the end, which was fun.
Absolutely.
And then in the summer, I did a musical, Brigadoon, which, if people don't know, is about a mystical Scottish town that disappears for 100 years and only reappears for one day. And so the people in the town only age one day. So every 100 years they wake up and have a party and then go back to sleep. And I played the villain in the musical. Harry Beaton was the character. And I remember I did a lot of training vocally. So I had a pretty darn good Scottish accent. And there was actually a couple from Scotland who came to the opening night, and they came up to talk to me. And I was talking in my white bread English accent. And they were like, "What? You're not Scottish?" "No, I'm not." And they were surprised. It turns out when my mother got really ill, we had to pull her birth certificate, and there was a name scratched, or was obviously erased from a pencil. And it turns out we knew who that person was, and he was Scottish. So my mother was part Scottish, and we thought it was always Irish, but somebody else's name got put in the place of that name on the father's side of the birth certificate.
Mm.
Really incredible. We know who he was, and he was really wealthy, and yikes.
Wow.
Anyway, so going to the University of Oregon, I got a job on the south side of the campus, the edge of it, but the shortcut to get there was through the Pioneer Cemetery, which is a really beautiful cemetery established in 1872. There is actually in there, it's a lot of military people laid to rest, and there's a section there for Scottish soldiers. And every year they have a ceremony. But so I would walk through the cemetery because it was a shortcut. And it was early morning, about 8:30, 8 o'clock. And one day it was foggy. And I thought, this looks enchanting because they have all these huge Douglas firs in the cemetery. And the cemetery was really well taken care of. Beautiful. And suddenly I heard bagpipe music at 8:30 in the morning. And I went, that's odd. Maybe somebody's were practicing or something. Then suddenly this man dressed in full black Scottish regalia stepped out. He was playing a bagpipe, and he had a big full beard. It was gray, but really striking. And he had very intense eyes. They were kind, but he was looking right at me. And he was only like 5 feet away from me. And he was playing, and I blinked, and suddenly he vanished. And I don't know if you know about bagpipes, but there's no way you can get it to just suddenly stop. It takes a while to let all the air out of it. And he just vanished, and the music stopped instantly. And he was standing right in front of me. And I went, oh, that was a ghost. I did not know about a ghost in the cemetery. And I was shocked. I wasn't scared. That was the one thing. And that was the first time I've actually seen a ghost. He was completely solid, just like you or me. And he looked vibrant and he looked intelligently at me. It wasn't a repeating ghost who plays a tape over and over again. This was obviously a real human being who was not on this earth quite anymore. So afterwards, I found out that there are two ghosts in that cemetery. The other one I've never seen. Apparently, it's a lady dressed in white, and she floats 3 feet off the ground. And she just appears to be just checking and making sure nothing's funny going on in the cemetery.
I love reports of Lady in White. There's a lot of those in all kinds of places, but I think that you got the better end of those two, because I think that seeing one floating off the ground may have been quite jarring. I don't know.
But also I think he sensed that I had a connection to Scotland because I was in Macbeth and Brigadoon, and my grandfather was probably Scottish.
Oh, see, I didn't even think about that, Ken. Yeah, you're right. I wasn't even putting that together. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right about the bagpipes. They have to taper off. That's not a stop, full stop all of a sudden situation with a bagpipe.
Yeah, it's impossible. Because we had somebody play bagpipes in both of the musical and Macbeth. Oh, you're not supposed to say the name of the play. I'm sorry. I forgot.
Oh, of Macbeth?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I'll go through, because I think you said it a few times. I'll go through this section and make sure. No problem.
It's supposed to be no, you can leave it in.
It's supposed to be what?
It's supposed to be the play that shall not be named.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah. Whenever you're in a theater, you're not supposed to say the name.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because it brings bad luck.
No kidding. Oh, see, I was not aware of that. Oh, that's cool. Really?
Yeah.
I really will cut it out I don't need to bring anybody bad luck. Are you sure? Okay. I didn't know that.
We're not in a theater. We're on the ultimate theater stage of planet Earth.
Wow, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
So even while you're in a play, you don't mention it, and after the play, you don't mention it. The name.
Right. If you're in the theater.
Oh,
you can say it outside the theater.
Okay. Interesting. I've never heard of that before. I learn something new every day. That's cool.
So after college, I moved to Hollywood, and I lived in this little place that my apartment was right up towards the entrance of the building, and there was a security gate, and it was really loud when you open it, so I knew it had been opened when people come through. And in my apartment thing, I kept getting constant knocks on my front door, and because it was only a couple of feet away, I would open the front door from my desk to get to the front door. I'd open it, and there was nobody there. It was impossible to open that front gate and vanish without making a lot of noise. So that followed me around a lot for years. Knocks on my front door, and it's always 3 knocks, which is the traditional knock, I guess, the Holy Trinity or something.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I experimented with religion, but I wasn't religious. I read the Bible. I read the Bhagavad Gita. I read all kinds of things, but I was never religious. Here in this apartment, I'll just skip around because in this apartment, in North Hollywood, I've had all kinds of things go on. Lights coming on again, and literally the light switches turned up like somebody flicked it on. And I've had friends here who saw that happen. They didn't see the light switch being flicked up, but they saw, oh, that light is now on and the switch is in the on position. really weird. I I remember when I first moved in here, there was something that was a weird squishy sound. And I I heard it in the kitchen. It landed on the cabinet counter, and I thought, that's a weird noise. So I went in and turned on the kitchen light, and it was a package of dinner napkins, paper dinner napkins that had been set on the top of the refrigerator, and they were picked up and moved to the kitchen counter across the kitchen. And that was the sound of them landing. That was the squishy little sound I heard. It was really weird. Oh, I did see one thing happen, and it freaked me out. I was sitting on my sofa, and I had framed movie posters, two of them, on one wall. And I swear, in unison, both of them lifted up in the air about 6 inches and then flew onto the carpet in front of the wall. It was like they didn't just fall off the wall, they flew away from the wall and then landed on the floor. And I remember seeing that, and I was in shock. I didn't move for a while, physically could not move. I was in shock. And it was a while before I was even willing to touch them. I was like, that's pretty powerful. That's a lot more powerful than a barrel of monkeys flying off of a puppet stage. There have been nights I try to close the bathroom door just a little bit, and the hallway light, or the bathroom, or the door in the hallway, excuse me, just so it makes the bedroom darker. But I remember one night I got up, and I don't close the doors, I just pull them almost shut, and I don't latch them at all. I don't close the doors because I'm afraid if an earthquake happens and the frame of the building gets shut off centered, or I might not be able to open that door. So if it's not closed, I have a better chance of getting out. But one night I got up to use the restroom, and as I was reaching to push the door open, the door slammed shut on me. It was boom, just closed. I was like, okay. Then I went to the other door, and it did that too. It just slammed shut. And I was like, okay, there is no breeze in my apartment. I had no windows open. And why would it do that? And I also I figured there was a ghost or something following me around. And I told it, you can stay in the living room, but my bedroom is off limits. And the restroom, everything is off limits. You can only stay in the living room. And I think it was telling me, it was playing a joke on me. That's what it was.
So you spoke that out loud to whatever or
Yes.
whoever this was. How long after
Yeah.
you said it out loud did the frame movie posters happen, and then the slamming of the
Oh,
door?
gosh. I think the movie posters came off the wall before I said that out loud.
Okay.
I was just I kept sensing that because I can sense a ghost often if they're there. And we'll get into that with Carole Lombard. And so I started learning about setting parameters, and I watch a lot of paranormal podcasts and read books about it. It's fun to read. It's certainly an endlessly fascinating subject, a lot of different subjects, as you well know. I don't, when I told it to stay out in the living room only, I think that happened like a couple of nights after I said that. And when the doors slammed, was really, it was shocking. And I reiterated again, stay out. I want to be able to sleep. I don't want to be bothered.
Both of those occurrences, when you really think about you're there alone and these things are happening, those are not two small instances. I can easily put myself in your shoes and go, I would have been freaked out too with either of those two happenings.
Yeah. I don't know what it, I guess I'm used to it, especially after Carole Lombard. I had no problem dealing with it. We're almost getting to that point in the story, but I'll bring up Al Capone in a bit, but my roommate, Paul, I want to bring him up because this is another pretty dramatic experience. I had a roommate named Paul, and we lived out in Selmar in a house, and he had a big driveway and a place for him to park his car, and I could park my car in the curve of the driveway. So one night I came home, and he got out of his car ahead of me. He had just obviously gotten home, and he lifted the trunk of his car, and he was pulling grocery bags out. And I leaned out my window. I said, "Hang on, I'll help you." I turned off my engine and went towards him, and he had already gotten all the bags, and he closed the trunk of his car and did not look at me. And instead of walking towards the house, he walked towards the street. And I said, "Paul, where are you going? The house is this way." And he continued walking with all the bags. And then there was a row of hedges at the end of the property. And they were very tall. And he walked to the street, turned right to go past the row of hedges. And I followed him. It was dark. Okay. The moon was full, and it was a beautiful night. So I could see clearly. He vanished as he turned past the hedges, completely vanished. And I was completely mystified. And I looked, did he fall into the hedges? No, he didn't. So I walked back to the house completely mystified. And I opened the front door, and my roommate Paul was in the kitchen making dinner. I screamed, and I told him what I just saw. I saw you carrying the bags of groceries that were sitting on the kitchen table, by the way. He hadn't put everything away. It was the same bags. And you had just vanished in front of my eyes around the hedges. Very. He died a few months later. He had to sell the house, and he died from cancer. It was really sad, and he was a very good friend and very sweet. And he also had quite a sense of humor. So this is where The Conjuring comes in. This is funny. So the first time I saw The Conjuring, I didn't get to see it in the theater, so I rented it, and I was watching it in my bedroom with the TV on, and the hand clap scene scares everybody.
Yes.
The daylights out of everybody. The hand clap scene happened, and of course I jumped. I didn't know it was happening. And at the same time, my roommate Paul was standing outside at my door waiting, and he slammed his fist on my door twice, just like the hand clap. I screamed, and he laughed and chuckled and said, "Dinner will be ready in 10 minutes.
That's a good roommate right there. I like that.
He was great. I was so mad, but I came and helped set the table for dinner. Oh my goodness. That was great. So then he died, and it was very fast. In fact, it was so fast. He got a diagnosis, and 2 weeks later, he was gone. He had a boyfriend who held a huge memorial party, so lots of people came. He was a very well-loved man in the world. He had lots and lots of guests. So after the party, I went home and I thought, I think I'll watch The Conjuring 2. So I rented it and I turned it on my TV and got it a little loud. And you remember the beginning in the Amityville house? The beginning of the movie takes place in the Amityville house, and there's a seance scene. And I should have checked this out, but I don't remember the exact line. But there's a line that gets screamed out loud, and my TV turned off. Never done that before. So I turned the TV back on, and I decide, okay, this kind of ruined the suspense or the pace of the movie. So I started over, and at the exact same moment, the same line of dialogue, the TV turns off. And I went, okay. So then I thought, maybe I'm not supposed to watch this on the TV. I'll just put it up on my computer screen because I have a big monitor. So it's pretty much the size of a TV anyway. And I play it on my computer, and the exact same moment, the same line of dialogue, the computer shuts down. Not just the movie stopped, the whole computer went down. And then I went, oh, it's Paul saying hi, just like he did with the first Conjuring. He's playing a joke on me. And so I turned my TV back on and I picked a different movie.
I'll bet.
Air Force One.
That's that is actually that's very heartwarming. I like stories like that of people saying, "I'm okay, I'm cool, and I want to say hi."
Yeah.
With the doppelganger incident, at the time that you saw the other Paul, no one knew he was sick at that time, right?
No one knew. He didn't know.
Do you think that somehow his whatever inside of him that knew he was sick, or whatever it might have been, was trying to prepare you and show you what was going to happen? That he would be gone, vanished?
I've thought of that a lot. I think so. It was so striking. Again, like the bagpipe ghost, this doppelganger was solid as could be. Looked just as solid as you or I might look. And just completely vanished. It still mystifies me. Wow.
I cannot imagine the shock that you must have had going inside the house and seeing him with the same groceries you just saw him with outside, and
Yeah.
he's standing in the kitchen. I cannot even imagine that scenario.
Oh, God. I literally screamed. I could not. That's probably the only paranormal experience that made me scream. I just did not expect that at all.
And you, of course, told him the whole story, right? What did he
Yes,
say
I
about
told him
it?
right away. He said, I'm in here cooking. It wasn't me, but it was you. Oh, it's a mystery.
That is pretty powerful, and that's where my brain just naturally gravitates, is that that was just somehow because you've done this in the past, things ahead of time, but this time it was so different. You actually saw a version of him, and now, because other reasons you're not allowed to see people that are close to you, he was very close to you. You guys were very close. And
Oh, Shannon, you just gave me chills.
really,
I never thought of that. I never thought that was me seeing the future somehow. I never thought of that. I always thought it was something being done to me, but maybe it was me seeing him. I don't know if that's weird. It's really strange.
Maybe for
Um,
that, for him and for you guys' relationship, the rules had been broken, and for this time, you were able to see what was going to
yeah,
happen. And again,
yeah.
I could be way off, but that's just where my brain went with that.
I think that's a good thought. I think it's something I should consider. And there's nothing I can do about it now, but
Right.
I can maybe just absorb it and see. Because I've seen ghosts in my apartment building. One, I remember, and I still see them. I don't know. It may be something where it's my gift coming through, and I didn't intend it to.
Yeah. And maybe that's a good thing, obviously, because if you started to see people that you know are alive and well, as far as vanish in front of you after that incident, now you're going to be going, oh my gosh, now you're,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it would, so I don't know.
It'd be like going back to the Hollywood parties where I'm supposed to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah. And then you go, that's okay. I didn't want to see that anyway, because look where it gets me.
So I want to bring up Al Capone just for a moment. It's a fun story.
Oh, I love it. Let's do it.
All right. So I had a friend, a gal pal, and we were at a conference in Chicago, and we decided we had the afternoon off, and we decided to go and hunt a bar that had some good pizza from real Chicago pizza and a good solid bar because we wanted some cocktails. And we found one, and they had a huge banquette in the middle of the bar. And we both sat down, and one of us on each end of the table, and the banquette was really nice and big and made us feel cozy. And the waitress came and took our order for drinks, and we ordered some pizza. And then she came back. By the time she came back, my friend and I were looking at each other. There's something not quite right. She was also gifted with the ability to sense the paranormal. She and I both looked at each other, and we were both sensing something's not quite right here at this table. The waitress came back and gave us our drinks, and we said, "Excuse us, but is there something unusual about this banquette we're sitting in?" And she went, "Yes, in fact, there is. Look at the sight line. It's the only seat in the whole bar where you can see all the way to the back of the bar, and you can see all the way to the front of the bar. And you know whose favorite seat that was? Al Capone. Al Capone was there. And she took us behind the bar and showed us the escape hatch below. She wouldn't let us go into it, but there was an escape hatch in behind the bar where you could get to a tunnel and get out of the bar without getting caught. But you could see if people were coming in to arrest him or cause a fight, he could get up and leave before they got to that part of the bar. That was fun. And the pizza was really good. And I don't remember the name of the restaurant or the bar.
Oh, that Chicago pizza. There's nothing like it. But going anywhere with either one of you or both of you at the same time would probably be interesting. Had you guys ever been in another place that you got a weird feeling that maybe you couldn't even confirm?
She visited me. She used to come and stay over with me at Carole Lombard's house.
Oh, boy.
So we're there. We just knew intuitively there was a way to connect it to Carole Lombard. So let's get on to Carole Lombard, episode 503. That reminder. That was great.
That was a great segue. Thank you for that. High five, Ken.
You haven't heard episode 503, go listen to it. It's really great. So I moved out to Silver Lake and got a room in a house that it was a big room, and it had French windows, and it really cool room, hardwood floors. And I worked for an interior design firm, and my boss said, I'm going to give you a gift. I'm going to pay for all the paint and repairs to the walls and give you some lighting fixtures. And she also gave me some Louis the 14th chairs that I got to borrow
Oh, that's cool.
because I had a section of my room that was big enough for an entire library, and I could have a little table and a couple of sitting chairs. And I had a little surround sound movie theater in there too. It was a big room. And I remember my roommate, she came upstairs and wanted to check on me. And I had been feeling something was watching me. And I was up on a ladder painting a wall. And she came in and said, how you doing? I said, good, but I feel like someone's watching me. It's really unbelievable how strong this energy is. And she said, oh, that's Carole. Apparently, Carole Lombard owned this house for a short while she had another house built that was even bigger. But, or maybe she rented it, but she did stay at that house. And I was getting her room, her bedroom, and I was fixing it up really nice. Interesting enough, my roommate, her boyfriend, lived a couple of apartments next. There was a row of apartments next door to her house, and her boyfriend rented the room that James Dean lived in for a while.
Wow.
Yeah, that's that kind of Hollywood stuff. It's really cool. Anyway, so Carole was very active and doors opening. The first time I had an actual encounter with the ghost, I didn't see her, but my roommate left for work every morning by about 6 o'clock, and I could hear her closing the wooden stairs, and she always wore boots. And I could hear her walking down the stairs and then open the front door and leave. And great. So I always knew when she was leaving. And it was my first day. It felt great. The sun was rising. The room was all nice and cozy. And I had the French windows open all the way. And suddenly I heard the front door open and slam shut. Boom. And then somebody running pell-mell up the stairs. But it was not boots. It was the sound of dress shoes, or, what a nice nicely dressed woman would wear. Pumps. It was pumps. And I was like, wow, she's running. And I jumped out of bed and I said to my roommate, I opened the door and said, are you okay? No one was there. The steps had reached the top of the stairs, and there was no one on the other side of my door, which is next to the stairs. It was rather freaky. So she would do all kinds of things. She'd change the radio station if you were listening to a radio. Oh, I remember one of the creepiest things she ever did to me was the first night I moved in, I decided to watch a movie and ordered a pizza. And then I sat down in my bed and got all comfy. And I said to her out loud, this is my room. Please stay out. And that was a big mistake. The next time I got off the bed, you remember people used to own CDs back in the 80s and 90s?
Heck yeah, I still have all mine.
Oh my gosh. I had a couple of towers of them on either side of my TV. and I had a throw rug stretching across the length of the room in front of the TV. And without me even seeing it, she had taken a CD off the shelf, off of one of the shelves. And she actually took the first one on, because I had them alphabetically on the towers. And she had laid it down exactly perpendicular to the corners of the throw rug. I went, okay, I guess we're sharing this room. That was her way of saying, it's my room. You only get to stay here for a while.
When she would change the music, would she always change it to the same station?
Oh, no, never. She'd just pick something random. It was weird. And it never made any sense. But stuff moving, I'd get stuff stolen out of my room. And I know where I'd put stuff. Like I had some sunglasses. They were expensive. And she stole them off my desk. And I know I put them there. And I looked all around my room. There were no one, they weren't anywhere to be found. And I didn't leave them in my car. A week later, they showed right back up on my desk, exactly where I put them when they were stolen. I think she thought it was funny. But
So if the roommate was there prior to you getting there, is this why she didn't claim the master bedroom for herself and gave it to you?
I don't know. I never asked her. That's funny.
She's like, Ken, you want the big bedroom? You're like, heck yeah. Well, that's strange you're giving me this room. Now you know why. How long did Carole live there?
It wasn't very long. So I don't even know why they called her Carole, because there was no proof that it was Carole Lombard, but we just know that she lived there for a while.
Right.
And apparently Clark Gable was there once and they had a tryst in my room.
Oh.
I don't know. Yeah.
Gosh, I love that kind of history. That's fascinating to me.
It is. It's wonderful and so romantic. And I feel so sorry for Clark Gable.
Yeah.
It's such a tragedy.
Yes.
Wow. Anyway.
Yeah, when you go, Ken, I don't know if you've ever been there, but if you ever have the chance to go to the Pioneer Saloon where Clark was holed up while he was trying to get any information he could after the crash, there's still the burn marks on the bar where he was putting his cigars out as he sat there to wait for the final news. I would love
to go there someday.
Yeah. It really gets you. He loved her a lot, and that was not a good thing in any way, shape, or form, of course.
Yeah. And somehow he kept working afterwards.
Yeah.
It was wild.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I had one really memorable experience. I went out to a bar one night, a really popular bar in Silver Lake. And it was a place where I knew I would occasionally run into people, and they were friends and we'd say hi. It was a popular place that people went to in Silver Lake. But one night I went there and I met this guy and we hit it off. He was funny. And so he hit on me and I invited him back to the house for some fun. But I decided, why don't we have a nightcap before we go upstairs to the bedroom? And I made a martini. And because Carole was so active, constant, I could invite people over and say, if you want to have a paranormal experience, come over. You will have a paranormal experience. Oh, so apparently he thought I was cute, but crazy. So we finished our drinks, went upstairs, and he stayed the night. And around 4:30 in the morning, he bolted up out of bed and throwing his clothes on. And he woke me up. I went, "What's wrong?" He said, "I forgot. I have to go pick up a friend from LAX." Oh, okay. I'll call you in the afternoon. Okay. And he ran out the door. And the next day I called him and I had asked, "So, how's your friend? Did you pick him up at LAX?" He said, "I lied. Someone punched me in the arm at 4:30 in the morning. And I saw it wasn't you because you were rolled over and completely sound asleep the other direction. So it was impossible that it would have been you who punched me." And then he said, "I saw your bedroom door open and close by itself." And that's when I jumped out of bed and made the excuse I had to go to LAX. Oh, yeah. We became boyfriends the next day. We started dating, and eventually I moved in with him at his house across the street. I had to leave poor Carol alone with no one. And but years later, I had another experience surrounding Carol and Clark Gable. I had a job working for a nonprofit, and we were constantly fundraising, but my boss had a lot of connections with a lot of wealthy people, and he always took me with him. Apparently, if it was a lady, I made them feel more comfortable because they thought I was cute. I knew it was a way of manipulating the women to get them to open their checkbooks. Anyway, so we went to this mansion, huge mansion in Beverly Hills, and apparently he knew this woman, and she was an actress, daytime soap opera or something. I didn't recognize her, but I was impressed with how enormous the house was, and it was a date for him. And he decided they went upstairs, and she said, "If you need anything, ask. We've got staff members who can get you anything you want. There's books here, there's magazines. Enjoy yourself. And you can go anywhere you want in the house." So I went while they were upstairs. This is so sordid. Wow. What a horrible story.
No.
I went wandering around the house because they had a lot of interesting art. I liked the architecture. It was beautiful. And the backyard was really beautiful. It was a big pool, row of cabanas, and it was really well taken care of. But I felt really strange, really bizarre, and I felt really uncomfortable. And so I went back in and sat down waiting for them. They eventually came downstairs, my boss and this woman whose name I can't remember. And I said I love the house, but there's something about the backyard. I feel like I've seen it before. And she went, "Oh, you've probably seen it. There are pictures of it online. This is where Carole Lombard and Clark Gable held a party for their nuptials after their wedding. They had a small wedding, and they just threw some Hollywood parties. And this is one of the places they held a Hollywood party." And I went, "Oh my God." I almost fell over. I was so dizzy when she said that. I thought, I told her I used to live in a house that Carole Lombard stayed in. Oh, I don't know what to say. That was just incredible.
I wonder what the tie-in is there. Just the fact that you happen to live at the house and then you miraculously really end up at this soap opera star's house and you had this feeling like you've seen this backyard before, which maybe you have subconsciously seen pictures or something, but it does seem like there's a connection with you and Carole now that you've lived in her home or something.
Yeah. I don't think there's any more of a connection. I always thought about going back there, but back to the house in Silver Lake, but they've they've turned it into several small apartments.
Oh,
So
geez.
it's not the same house anymore.
But
But
somebody's house includes the extremely active bedroom. Were any other areas of the home active at all?
oh yeah, oh yeah. She would go through the house and move stuff and change not only my radio upstairs but the radio downstairs.
Yeah. And then, of course, the
Um,
footsteps up the stairs, things like that.
oh yeah. And I remember one time I invited a friend over because he wanted to have a paranormal experience. He wanted to believe, so so to speak. So it was a nice warm summer day. We had a garden out front with little twinkly white lights and a nice table. So I decided to make us martinis, and I poured us a couple of martinis, and we were going to go and sit out in on the patio. Oh, the martini lid slammed on the counter. It didn't just fall, it was picked up and slammed. And my friend jumped. He went, wow, that somebody did that. It didn't just slip off because it was tightly. When you're making a martini, you got to make sure the shaker is really tight on there. And I went, I bet it was Carole. She wanted a martini as well. So I poured a third one and left it for her on the counter. And my friend went, now I'm a believer. Yeah. So she was all over the house, but mostly my bedroom.
The running
Yeah.
up, the front door opening, shutting, and then the running up the stairs, did that only happen the one time?
No, it didn't always accompany the front door opening, but you would often hear someone walking up the stairs. And my roommate and I were the only ones home. We're the only tenants in the house. And we look at each other in the living room and go, someone's walking up the stairs. And it's impossible to walk quietly up those stairs. It was wooden. It probably needed to be rebuilt, but it was pretty amazing.
What about the
And
roommate's experiences? Did she share a whole lot of things with you?
yeah, we always, if something happened, we always made sure we told the other person because, first off, we're going to believe each other. There won't be much controversy there.
Were her experiences much different than yours?
Not invasive, like standing in the room. And once in a while, when my partner stayed over, we could feel the energy in the room shift. And I felt it. And then my partner said, can you feel that? It's like electricity in the air. And it was oppressive. And I said, it'll go away. It's just Carole. And yeah,
So the gentleman that you met at the bar and then you guys became a couple, he did end up coming back and staying at the house with you, right?
yeah,
And he never got punched again, anything like
no,
that?
no. I think that was just her way of saying hi.
Yeah. Yeah, I see you there.
You know,
Welcome to the house. That's a hell of a way to wake up, I gotta say. That would
oh
be
yeah,
really freaky.
yeah, that would be freaky. And yeah, no, he finally learned that I was never scared and nothing ever happened that would harm a person. So yeah, it was mostly just pranks. Shall we move on?
Yes, I love that stuff about Carole Lombard. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, you're very welcome. So now with the phone call with God. This happened when I was still living I was living in Carole's house, and it was before I met my partner. I had fallen in love with somebody who completely devastated me and rejected me, and he was actually quite mean about it too. I felt really bad, And I thought I wanted to end my life. And so I knew my sister had attempted it. She failed. As a side note, my parents, when I was in high school, would never let me watch the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And there was a good reason why. I saw it in college. I used to be the guy in the dorm who rented movies and picked what we were going to see we had a movie night. And one time I rented One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I wanted to see it. I'd never seen it. I did not know that it was part of it was shot in my town of Lincoln City. And the scene where they are trying to go steal away from the hospital and go fishing. And all of that was shot in my hometown. But the biggest shock was when they went to the state hospital that was shot at the same hospital my sister had been placed in. And the scene with the electric shock therapy, which is still legal in the state of Oregon, happened in a room that probably was the same room my sister had it done.
Oh.
They restaged it, of course. The room looked identical, and I then knew why my parents didn't want me to see the movie. They didn't want me to get upset. And I was upset, but I think I could have handled it just fine because I actually liked that movie, but it was a shocker. Anyway, my sister attempted suicide a few times, and I don't know why we both had this inclination, but she never succeeded. And finally, she eventually got cured of it and had some children and finally got back to some semblance of a normal life. But that was years ago, and she passed away a few years ago, quite suddenly. Yikes.
I'm sorry, Ken.
Yeah, she had an aneurysm, and she was complaining of a really bad headache. And by the time they got her onto the examination table, she passed.
Oh.
They didn't even have time to see what was wrong. Anyway, so back to this guy who had been mean in rejecting me. He was brutal. And I came up with a plan. And now I have to backtrack. I forgot. I have to tell you, I had this friend. His name was Eric. And it's okay to use his name, by the way. Eric. He was a young friend, and he was an artist. And every once in a while, he lived in New York, but every once in a while, he'd come and stay with me for a few days. And I'd let him camp out in my bedroom, and then he'd go off in the day and do stuff. And then at night, we'd have dinner and chat and have a good time and talk about what the day was like. But he was a really good friend. And then sometimes when he went back to New York, we didn't talk for months. It'd be months before we talked. And at this particular time when I was considering ending my life, I hadn't spoken to him in something like 6 or 7 months. And I had come up with a plan that I was pretty sure would work. And suddenly my phone rang. And it was my friend Eric from New York calling me out of the blue. He said, "God told me to call you right now. He's talking to me. He's telling you not to do what you're thinking of doing. You'll regret it, and it will hurt a lot of people. You have to promise not to go through with it, ever." I was shocked. That's the first phone call I got from my friend Eric in months. And that's the topic. He knew I was going to kill myself.
That is amazing, Ken.
It saved my life.
I don't even. Oh my gosh. Like, it's
I-
beyond specific. He said exactly what you were going to do, and God says, don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I was in such a shock. I promised right then and there never to think about it again, never to do it. And it changed my life from that point on. It was quite a stunning moment.
Is Eric
And-
particularly religious, or had you guys
No,
discussed religious
he
things?
was a bit of a psychic as well.
Okay.
I knew he had more abilities than he mentioned.
Yeah.
We tried talking about stuff, but I know he was being coy with me. He wouldn't tell me everything. So he could sense things. I know he sensed the ghost in the house, Carole. He sensed her. But it's so wild.
That is incredible. Incredible.
Yeah. I wouldn't be here if that phone call hadn't happened.
Not to be too morbid, but how close were you to trying to execute your plan?
I had to wait till my roommate went to sleep. And then there was going to be a few hours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And you hadn't
And
talked to this guy in months.
I hadn't talked to him in 6 or 7 months. And
You were going to say something and I stepped on you.
no, and just thank God.
Yeah, I would say so. That is directly a phone call from God. That is amazing. Yeah, and I would say you're not allowed to do that at this point when God directly tells Eric to call you and say, by the way, I have a message for Ken. Can you pass this along to Ken, please? That's
It was like he was
wonderful.
channeling him.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I have a message for him. It was like he was just repeating what he was hearing in his head.
Wow.
It was an extraordinary experience. And I think part of what it was that it woke me up to how extraordinary the universe can be. And I don't know everything. And there are still mysteries to be solved. There are still wonderful things that can happen. And that was one of them. And it's a tragic, morbid story, but it has a very happy ending. I'm still here.
Yeah.
And I've had lots of great experiences in my life. And I'm happy.
Do you and Eric still talk about that?
We haven't talked in years.
Really?
We lost contact with each other. I think that there are some relationships where you meet somebody and there's a purpose. And I think the purpose was fulfilled that night. And we chatted every once in a while, but
Yeah.
he never came to stay with me again. Yeah. It was, and he was a great guy and a good artist. So.
That is incredible. I love that so much, Ken. I love it.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad I got to share it.
And I'm so sorry about your sister. I know that was not easy to share. So thank you for bringing all of that up. And I do want to mention, because you mentioned this at the end of the email, and I think we should mention it since we're talking about this subject. And if you could bring up the suicide prevention hotline, and that there are resources out there for anybody that's having a difficult time.
Dial 988 on your cell phone and you will get to the Suicide in Crisis Lifeline. Go to 988lifeline.org on the internet and you'll get all kinds of resources. And there's videos. You never have to feel afraid to call. If you just want to chat, or you've got emotional distress, problems with alcohol use, or trying to take care of somebody who needs help, it's a good resource. They're always there to talk. And then also, if you want, there's a YouTube channel they have where you can look and see how the phone calls work and what they do for you. But on the dark side, I heard yesterday Trump wants to eliminate. That's one of the $9 billion they want to eliminate from the budget. They want to get rid of NPR, PBS, and this is one of the programs they want to get rid of.
That would not be a good idea. And I will say that I am going to put the links to everything that you sent me, including it's a nice kind of 101 on what happens when you call, so you're not as intimidated maybe. I will put those links in the show notes for this episode. And we have an entire subject that we are going to cover on another episode, and that is of the extraterrestrial kind, which I'm very much looking forward to, Ken. But thank you so very much for being willing to share. This was really a great chat.
I really thoroughly enjoyed it, Shannon.